Every other weekend, I pack a bag, grab my headphones, and head out with my sister Zara to spend 2 days at Dad's place. It's been like that for years. Please stay with me as I tell you my story. Don't forget to like, share with your family and friends, and subscribe to our channel for more stories. Now back to my story. He and Mom split when I was younger, and even though he's always tried to stay in our lives, there's only so much bonding you can cram into a couple of weekends a month. For a while it was just Dad, me and Zara. Then came Lionel. She and Dad were together for years before they finally married last year. She's been part of the picture for a while now, but she still feels like someone standing just outside the frame. Not a stranger, but not exactly family either. Still, I never had any real issue with her. I'm a quiet person by nature, so I never thought much of our relationship, or lack of one. But over the past year, every time we visit, Dad pulls me and Zara aside and says something like, "Lionel's feeling like you two don't like her." The first time he said it, I felt a pang of guilt. I hadn't realized I was coming off that way. So I tried harder, asked about her work, commented on her new dress, even helped clean the table after dinner. But apparently, it wasn't enough. The next visit, same talk, same quiet disappointment in Dad's voice. And every time he brings it up, I feel more lost. It's not that I don't care. I just don't know how to show it in a way she understands. And every effort that goes unnoticed chips away at my confidence, and at any chance of truly connecting with her. I've always been the quiet one. Even at school, I was never the kid raising their hand or cracking jokes across the classroom. I like silence. I like listening more than talking. I like observing things before deciding how I feel. But with Lionel, my quietness became a problem. I didn't realize how much it bothered her until it became a regular topic of conversation during our visits. My dad tried to be gentle about it, but it was obvious he was frustrated. Or maybe just tired of playing the middleman. "She says she tries to talk to you, but you don't talk back," he told me once while we were washing dishes together. "She feels invisible." I wanted to scream, because that's how I felt too. It wasn't that I didn't respond. I just didn't know what to say when every small comment I made seemed to land flat. She asked what I was reading once. I told her. She said never heard of it, and went back to scrolling her phone. Another time, I complimented her nail color, and she didn't even look up. Still, I tried. I made eye contact. I smiled more. I laughed when her younger son made a joke. Even if I didn't get it. I stayed off my phone during dinner and asked her if she wanted help in the kitchen. None of it seemed to count. The next time we visited, my dad brought it up again. "She says you haven't changed. She's still feeling distant from you." I nodded, said okay, and walked away. Inside, though, I was starting to wonder. If she's already decided I don't like her, will anything I do even matter? Dad thought maybe a group activity would help. Something light, something fun. So we all went out for mini golf, me, Zara, Lionel, her two sons, and Dad. It was supposed to be a bonding moment. One of those were a blended family, and we're doing okay afternoons. Zara and I left our phones in the car to be more present. We smiled, laughed when our balls bounced off course, and tried to make the best of it. But from the start, Lionel was complaining. "It's too hot," she said. "I hate how long this takes. This place smells weird. Why didn't we do something indoors?" Meanwhile, her younger son had headphones in the entire time. Over the year, noise-canceling ones. He didn't play half the holes, just leaned against walls and stared at his phone. Lionel said nothing to him, not a word. But when we got back to the car, I saw her whisper something to Dad. And later that evening, like clockwork, he pulled me aside again. "She still feels like you're keeping your distance." I wanted to cry, I really did. How could she miss the fact that I was trying? That I was pushing myself out of my comfort zone, playing along, making eye contact, being present, even when she clearly wasn't interested in the moment. I didn't say anything to Dad, I just nodded. What was the point? I kept thinking, if that outing wasn't enough to show I cared, what would be? Back in my room that night, I stared at the ceiling and thought about how different things might be if she just tried to meet me halfway. Because maybe I wasn't being loud, but I was showing up. And it felt like she never really saw that. The weekend, after the mini-golf outing, I decided to try again. One more genuine attempt at a real conversation with Lionel. It was a quiet Sunday morning. Dad had gone to the store. Zara was still asleep. I found Lionel in the kitchen, sipping coffee, scrolling on her phone. I took a breath and stepped into the awkwardness. "Hey," I said gently. "Do you want help with breakfast or anything?" She looked up startled. "No, it's fine," she said with a tight smile. Silence hung in the air between us like a wet towel. I sat at the table anyway. I've been thinking, I began carefully, about what Dad said. I just wanted you to know I don't dislike you. I'm just really quiet. I struggle talking to people sometimes. She set her coffee down and looked me straight in the eyes. Well, she said, that's not good enough. I'm not a stranger. I stared at her stunned. The words hit me like a slap, sharp, fast, and unexpected. I wanted to tell her that just because she married my dad didn't make her immune to how I am. That I wasn't choosing silence as some act of rebellion. That talking, really talking, wasn't easy for me. Especially not when I felt judged for every word I said. Instead, I said nothing, just nodded, excused myself, and shut the bedroom door behind me. Zara asked me later if I was okay. I shrugged. I didn't know how to explain the way Lionel's words made me feel, like I was broken for not being someone I never claimed to be. From that point on, something inside me pulled back, and I began to wonder if she had already given up on trying with me. After that conversation, something shifted. It wasn't dramatic. There were no slammed doors, no screaming matches, no ultimatums. But the silence between Lionel and me grew colder. Heavier. It used to feel like awkwardness. Now it felt like distance that couldn't be crossed. I stopped trying to make conversation, unless spoken to. Not out of spite, but out of weariness. When you reach out and get slapped back with "that's not good enough," it makes you hesitant to reach again. Zara noticed the change. Why aren't you talking to her anymore? She asked one night while we were brushing our teeth. I hesitated before answering. Because I did talk, and she didn't listen. Zara was only 13, but sometimes she understood more than people gave her credit for. She nodded solemnly. I kept thinking about what Lionel wanted from me. Was I supposed to suddenly become bubbly, talkative, someone who had inside jokes and shared interests with her sons? That wasn't me. That had never been me. But still, the guilt lingered. I'd sit on the couch and wonder if I should ask her how work was going. I'd stand at the dinner table, thinking maybe I should compliment her cooking, even when it was something I didn't like. And yet I couldn't. Something inside me just froze. It wasn't that I hated her. I didn't. I just didn't know how to keep trying when every effort felt invisible, or worse, judged. At night, I started writing down how I felt. Not in a journal exactly, but in little notes I kept hidden under my pillow. Letters I never sent. Letters that started with "Dear Lionel" and always ended with, "I wish you could see I'm trying." I never planned to give her the letter, but I needed to write it. It wasn't for her, really, it was for me. For the version of myself that kept showing up. Quietly, hopefully, only to be told that it wasn't enough. I wrote the letter in one go. Late at night with the light from my phone and the soft hum of Zara's breathing from the other side of the room. I poured everything into it, not anger, just truth. I told her that I didn't hate her, that I didn't even know how to hate someone I didn't really know, that I had been trying in my own way, listening, observing, making space. I admitted that I struggled with conversation, that I got nervous easily, and that being around new people, even ones I saw every other weekend, was hard for me. I told her how her words about me not being good enough sat in my chest like a rock I couldn't swallow. I told her I didn't want to be invisible, but I didn't want to pretend either. And finally I wrote, "You don't have to love me, but I wish you'd try to see me as I am, not who you expect me to be." When I finished, I folded the paper and slid it under my mattress. It never left my room. But somehow, writing it gave me a kind of clarity. I realized I didn't need her approval to be worthy. I didn't need to contort myself into a version she'd find acceptable. What I needed was to stop holding my breath, and maybe just start being kind in my own way, without expecting anything in return. After writing the letter, I didn't change overnight, but I changed direction. I stopped overthinking every interaction with Lionel. Instead of constantly trying to measure whether I was liking her enough, I just focused on being decent, present me. When we visited Dad's house, I made my bed without being asked. I helped with the dishes, even when they weren't mine. I'd say good morning before she did, offered to carry groceries, and thank her for dinner, even if it was frozen lasagna. Nothing huge, just small acts. I didn't force conversation anymore. If she asked something, I'd answer thoughtfully. If she didn't, I let it be. And I began to notice she didn't push as much either. There was a strange calm in that silence. Not comfort, not yet, but neutrality. Like a ceasefire in a war we never declared. The biggest change, I stopped expecting her to meet me halfway. Instead, I set my own pace and walked steadily, without bitterness. One afternoon, she was folding laundry in the living room, and I walked by with a fresh basket of towels. "You want help?" I asked, not out of obligation, but because I meant it. She looked up a little surprised, then nodded. Sure. We folded in silence. No deep talk. No heart-to-hearts, but we folded together. When we finished, she looked at me and said, "Thanks." It was the first thanks I remember her saying to me in months. That night I didn't write a letter. I didn't need to. Because even if it was just a crack of light, something was shifting. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was the only one trying. It was the smallest moment, but it stayed with me. Zara and I were helping set the table for dinner one evening. Lionel was in the kitchen, humming to herself while stirring something on the stove. I handed her the salt without her asking, and she looked at me, not with that unreadable expression I was used to, but with something gentler. She smiled. It caught me off guard. It wasn't forced or polite. It felt real, fleeting but real. For the rest of the evening, she didn't say much, but the energy in the room was different, softer, lighter. Later, while clearing the plates, she said, "The rice turned out better than last time, huh?" I nodded. Yeah, it did. It was a simple exchange, just a few words, but it was the first time we'd had a back and forth that didn't feel awkward or forced. I kept replaying that smile in my head for days, not because it meant everything was fixed, but because it meant everything wasn't lost. Dad didn't pull me aside that weekend. No quiet talks, no updates on how Lionel felt. Maybe there was nothing to report. Or maybe, finally, he saw that we were figuring it out in our own way. I started to believe that connection doesn't always look like deep conversations or shared hobbies. Sometimes, it looks like a small smile over dinner, a folded towel, a shared silence that isn't heavy. I didn't know what the future held for our relationship, but for the first time, I felt like maybe we weren't on opposite sides anymore. Maybe we were just two people, slowly learning how to meet in the middle. The next time Zora and I went to Dad's, the air felt different before we even stepped through the door. Lionel greeted us at the entryway. She didn't just give a polite nod. She opened the door wide and said, "Hey girls, I made that garlic bread you both liked last time." Zara and I exchanged a quick look. Dinner that night wasn't tense. It wasn't groundbreaking either. But it was normal, comfortable. There was conversation, brief but warm. Lionel asked about school, and when I mentioned an art project I was working on, she actually asked to see a photo. "Wow," she said, eyes on my phone. "You're really good." I didn't know what to say. Compliments from her weren't common. But it didn't feel fake. It felt like she meant it. Later, I helped her rinse dishes. She passed me the wet plates without a word. But there was something companionable in it. Like we were slowly learning how to exist in the same space, without either of us feeling like a guest. That night, Zara whispered from her mattress, "I think she's trying." "I know," I whispered back. And the crazy thing was, I wasn't nervous anymore. I didn't feel like I was constantly being watched for signs of friendliness. I didn't feel like I was failing a test I didn't sign up for. We weren't best friends, we might never be, but something had shifted. And for once, I didn't feel like I had to prove I cared. I just had to keep showing up as I was. Quiet, kind, present. And it was starting to be enough. It's been a few months since that turning point. I still visit Dad every other weekend. Lionel's still there, still doing her thing, organizing the house, making her opinion known, laughing a little too loud at shows none of us watch. She hasn't changed overnight. Neither have I. But something is different now. She no longer looks past me. We talk, not a lot, but enough. She asks about my art more often. I ask how her work's going. Sometimes. We even laugh at the same thing on TV. No forced smiles. No awkward silences begging to be filled. It's not perfect, and it probably never will be. But it's real. And real is better than perfect. I think Lionel has come to understand that I'm not cold. I'm just quiet. And I've realized that she didn't need me to be loud or bubbly or best friend close. She just needed to feel like I saw her. Like I wasn't shutting her out. The truth is, we were both trying. But we spoke different languages. She needed words. I gave actions. She needed presence. I gave space. Now, we're learning to meet each other somewhere in the middle. I'm proud of that. And I've learned that caring doesn't always need to be loud. Sometimes, it's in the garlic bread, the folded towels, the eye contact across a dinner table. Sometimes, it's in the effort you never thought would be seen, finally being seen. And maybe that's what love really looks like in families like mine. Two people, deeply different, quietly trying again and again. Please like, share with your family and friends, and subscribe to our channel for more stories.